All right. So this video, I have two articles for you, and both come from Politico. Now, we have the fact that Trump wants to privatize Social Security, and he's doing it in a backdoor way. And we also have the eroding of the separation of church and state, the Establishment Clause. So let's get to the first article, which is, let me just make sure I can read this, which I did not do before. Yes, I can. Okay. Federal employees can pray and preach in the workplace under new Trump rules. Because what could possibly go wrong with that? Okay, and the subheading says, the White House noted that similar language was issued under President Clinton. To which I say, and do you think because this was issued under a Democratic president that people are going to be like, oh, well, in that case, it's fine? Because, as we all know, Democrats agree with anything and everything any Democrat has done ever. And the same thing with Republicans. I'm sorry, what? All right, but let's get to the article. Federal employees can preach in the workplace under new guidelines issued Monday by the Trump administration that have alarmed advocates for the separation of church and state. Well, yeah. The guidelines, outlined in a memo from the Office of Personnel Management, allow public employees to pray and discuss religion, including efforts to persuade others of the correctness of their own religious views, but do not endorse a specific faith. But let's face it, they're talking about Christianity. I'm sure that the minute a non-Christian tries to convince a Christian to convert, they're going to find some reason why that's wrong. But, if you want to go around and proselytize to people on the street and be that annoying street preacher, fine. People will just avoid you. But why make things awkward like that at work? I mean, that's just begging people to ostracize you. Or that you would ostracize someone who refuses to believe like you do, depending on the environment. But since you cannot assume that all Christians think like you do, because, well, there's hundreds of Christian denominations, I'm going to say you're the one who's going to get ostracized, because people have their own religious views. If you want to debate religion, you can do that on your own time. But trying to persuade others, that is code for being insufferable. All right. Supervisors are also allowed to encourage workers to engage in expressions of faith, including prayer. Right, encourage. Yeah, that's not going to have any bad effects. It's not like supervisors are going to, write people up because they dared not pray when the supervisor wanted them to, or whatever. Federal employees should never have to choose between their faith and their career, OPR Director Scott Cooper said in a statement outlining the policy. Okay, wait a minute. So you pray at work. Who the fuck stops people from praying at work? Nobody stops you from praying at work. You can pray at work, you can pray at school, you can pray whenever the fuck you want to. Nobody is saying you cannot do that. I do not understand where this persecution complex is coming from. Because it is a persecution complex. This idea that because we can't walk all over other people, we're somehow being persecuted. Or because we can't force other people to pray with us, that means we can't pray. No, that means you can't force other people to join you. You can pray whenever and wherever you fucking want to. Okay. This guidance ensures the federal workplace is not just compliant with the law, but welcoming to Americans of all faiths. That is what the Establishment Clause is for. Why are we passing laws when we have the separation of church and state? We have the Establishment Clause for that very reason. The First Amendment specifically states Congress will pass no law establishing a religion. You can pray to whatever God you want or no God whatsoever. You do not have to participate in religion because religious freedom goes both ways. If you are free to practice whatever religion you want or someone's going to force you. You can't have it both ways. That's why atheists say religious freedom includes freedom to not be religious. Because once you've established that a person can be forced into a certain religion, that'll snowball into everybody being forced to participate in a particular religion and not just religion in general. So, Americans are already, federal workplaces are already open to all faiths. I mean, just because you might not like that, ironically, these people do not like that it's open to all faiths. Because for some reason, respecting other faiths is equivalent to not being able to practice yours or something. The White House also pointed to a memo with similar language and protections issued under former President Bill Clinton. Again, yeah, and? What does that mean? What does that matter? I mean, unless you're citing that as precedent, but I'm pretty sure that given this administration, they're probably pointing and saying, see, a Democrat did it, so it can't be bad. As if that means that Bill Clinton never did anything wrong, ever. I mean, this is the man who passed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So clearly he wasn't a perfect president. And nobody ever said he was. Still, religious liberty advocates were disturbed. Mikey Weinstein, president and founder of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, said the guidelines appeared to be in conflict with the constitutions and the rights of workers. If your supervisor decides to sit down and make it very clear that it's important to her or him that you accept this weaponized version of the gospel of Jesus Christ, what do you think your chances are for advancement? Weinstein said. Exactly. And I pointed that out earlier. You could end up getting fired simply because or just given a bad review because you wouldn't pray with your supervisor. And I'm not just talking about two Christians praying silently. Okay, I'll pray with you. But you guys are praying two different prayers. Maybe you have, or maybe you're two people of different faiths who choose to pray at the same time but are praying silently. So neither one disturbs the other. This isn't what that means. This is you are forced to pray the same prayer as me. And that's just asking for trouble. But Andrew Walker, an associate dean at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, said the new policy merely resets the rules back to neutrality. Okay, again, we have the Establishment Clause, so what rules were preventing people from praying? Forcing others to listen and forcing others to convert or pestering them until they convert. No, that was never neutrality. Because, again, if you want to debate religion on your own time, that's up to you. If you want to debate religion and, possibly put yourself in a position to convert to a different religion or convert others, if everyone is okay with it, fine. But how is this resetting back to neutrality? It isn't. Everybody was always allowed to pray at work. They just can't bug other people about it. And as a supervisor, especially, you cannot bug other people about praying with you or being religious because it's none of their damn business. Okay, I have no problem with it whatsoever, Walker said. To me, that's simply reaffirming the First Amendment that has proper caveats if you're not engaging in harassing behavior. I think this is just reiterating basic principles of the First Amendment. Then why do you need this rule? If we have the First Amendment, there is no way. They claim that they don't want people to engage in harassing behavior, but they're giving them this ammunition to do just that. Like the supervisor who wants his office to pray with them. Okay, you want the office to pray with you. Great. As long as, let's have a moment of silence for this or that. And then people get to decide, are we going to pray or are we just going to sit quietly, reflect on a certain issue, or just empty your mind of any and all thoughts? That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But making people pray like you do? No, that's not neutrality. And even though you claim that you don't want harassing behavior, again, you're giving people ammo to do just that. President Donald Trump's administration has appeared to embrace religion to a significant degree, establishing a White House faith office, directing State Department employees to report anti-Christian bias from colleagues, and issuing an executive order to create a presidential commission on religious liberty. Okay, this kind of gives the game away with the anti-Christian bias from colleagues at the State Department. I'm not saying that nobody ever exhibits anti-Christian behavior. I'm not going to say that. But this country is majority Christian. So even if you come up with some bias, it's going to be so infrequent and really can't do much damage. And if it does, if you happen to be in one of those situations where it does, there is literally recourse because it's in the freaking Constitution. I do not know why we have to bend over backwards. And like I said, even though they claim that this is to allow all faiths to operate openly, I'm pretty sure the first time a Muslim tries to pull this, tries to get someone to convert to Islam or wants them to pray with them, I'm pretty sure that people are going to lose their minds. because obviously this is all about these poor Christians who are being persecuted because they can't force their religion on others. In the case of I did an article about a doctor who wouldn't help this unwed mother. Now, the way she tells it is that it's just because of a law that Tennessee passed, as if his hands were tied. But apparently the law says you can refuse to help someone based on your religious beliefs, which, why are you a doctor then if your religion means more to you than being a doctor? But whatever. But obviously, if this doctor really wanted to help her, then he would, put his religious beliefs aside and help her. But anyway, if she were to sue him, which she probably could do, if she were to sue him, that would be, in this administration's eyes, and this person's eyes probably, anti-Christian bias, because they're just practicing their religious beliefs. Even though it goes up against his job, and his job should take precedent because, well, it's his damn job. Anyway, so yes, this is just more bullshit about how Christians are being persecuted in this country, and because they can no longer walk all over people that they don't like and people of other faiths and force them to pray with them or force them to convert or whatever it is, they're going to find ways to put themselves back up on a pedestal, because nothing says I feel comfortable with my faith than forcing others to follow it, or saying that these are my religious beliefs and I'm going to force my religious beliefs on you. Like, I'm going to force you to agree on this policy position or that policy position, because that is how people who feel comfortable in their skin, in their beliefs, that's how they behave. We have to force others to agree with us, because if we don't, that means that we're weak or something. Rather than our beliefs are our beliefs regardless of what everyone else thinks. Because we're okay with other people thinking differently than we do. But, that would be way too much like common sense or following the Constitution. Anyway, that is the end of that article. So, let's move on to another disturbing behavior from the Trump administration. Bessent hails new Trump accounts as backdoor for privatizing Social Security. Because, what could possibly go wrong with that? I mean, why wouldn't you want your Social Security to be tied to the stock market? Yeah, nothing could possibly go wrong with that. All right, subheading. Trump accounts Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said would make everyone a shareholder in the success of the economy. One problem. How are people not a part of this economy? Do you know what the economy means? I mean, what? You think that as it stands now, people don't benefit from a successful economy. I mean, there are those who do not because they don't have the money to put into the stock market. So maybe they don't have the nest egg you do, but they still have a stake in a successful economy because, in theory, if we have a successful economy, then wages will go up and people will benefit from that economy because that's what a successful economy means. Anyway, to the article. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Wednesday framed the president's new Trump accounts as a transformative tool for long-term wealth building and a backdoor for privatizing Social Security. Bessent said the new tax-deferred investment accounts, which were created by President Donald Trump's sweeping tax law earlier this month, could be a way to boost financial literacy and young voters' engagement in the economy. So, are we saying that the only way to be engaged in the economy is to play the stock market? How about a successful economy trickles down and into wages? Living wages. How about that? That's engaging in the economy. I'm not sure what. Why are we on the verge of Caracas on the Hudson in New York? Bessent asked an audience at a Breitbart event in Washington, referencing the rise of Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani, who won over young voters in New York City's mayoral race. Why is this guy getting traction? Because young people are disillusioned with the system. Now, I have to agree with him on that one. Now, his solution is bullshit, but he is right that people are disillusioned with the system. Trump accounts, Bessent said, would make everyone a shareholder in the success of the economy. People who are part of this system do not want to bring down the system, Bessent said. Right. That's why Trump and this administration is trying to destroy the government, right? Because those who are part of the system don't want to bring down the system. Sure. The accounts, originally named mega accounts, Natch, allows parents to contribute up to $5,000 each year on behalf of their children. So you do need to have money in order to be a shareholder in the success of this economy. Okay, what a shock. Contributions can also come from employers and charitable organizations. The funds must be invested in portfolios tied to U.S. stock indices and are structured similarly to individual retirement accounts, with penalty-free withdrawals permitted after age 59 and a half or earlier for college expenses or first home purchase. So basically, they're just forcing more people to be playing the stock market, because I guess if more people play the stock market, that means that the inevitable recession all these tariffs Trump is threatening are going to cause is going to not be as big of a deal because more people will be playing the stock market, so it won't be as noticeable? Or what the heck? Trump's law also provides a universal contribution from the government of $1,000 for each baby born during 2025 through 2028, regardless of their family income. So this is a part of Trump's begging women to make babies. Because there was already, we will pay you so much money to help raise a child, which isn't nearly enough to actually do that. So this is obviously a continuation. In a way, it's a backdoor for privatizing Social Security, Bessent said at the Breitbart event. If all of a sudden these accounts grow and you have in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for your retirement, that's a game changer too. The Trump accounts, as written in the law, do not affect anyone's Social Security benefits. Well, at least something. Later on Wednesday, Bessent clarified in a post on X that the new Trump accounts are an additive benefit for future generations, which will supplement the sanctity of Social Security's guaranteed payments, he added. This is not an either-or question. Our administration is committed to protecting Social Security and to making sure seniors have more money. You know, I'm skeptical because, this is still the stock market, and, you shouldn't be tying your Social Security to it. Like he said, oh, you're going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe. Or, depending on how it was invested, you might end up with butkus because it's the stock market and prices go up, the cost of living goes up. So, if it works, great. But depending on a lot of factors, this may or may not be a good thing. It's great that they don't actually want to work with Social Security, if true, which I highly doubt, but even if it's not true, like I said, maybe it'll work out. But the fact remains that you still have to have money or get money from somewhere in order to start this account. So it still falls back to those who can afford it. And obviously those who can afford it can put more money in to begin with. And as you put in more money, it grows, and depending on what indices you're in, it could grow well or not so well. It all depends. So, let's see. Democrats swiftly seized on Bessent's remarks, accusing the Trump administration of reneging on the president's promise that he wouldn't touch Social Security. I think the fact that Doge exists already puts the lie to that anyway, so. Bessent actually slipped and told the truth. Donald Trump and his government wants to privatize Social Security, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said in a floor speech. Richard Neal, the top Democrat on the House Tax Writing Committee, echoed the sentiment, saying in a statement that Bessent has said the quiet part out loud. Republicans' ultimate goal is to privatize Social Security, and there isn't a backdoor they won't try to make Wall Street's dream a reality. A Treasury Department spokesperson said that Bessent's comments were being taken out of context. Social Security is a critical safety net for Americans and always will be, the Treasury spokesperson said in a statement. This administration has not just fought tirelessly for seniors, but is also fighting for the next generation. In his remarks, Bessent added that Treasury, which needs to craft regulations to carry out the new accounts, would be implementing the program with an eye toward financial literacy. At Treasury, we are going to push with these accounts that if you have the account, we want you to learn about it, we want you to understand it, he said. Um, okay, you don't need to, and that is the end of that article, but you do not need to have an account on the stock market to have financial literacy. I mean, I play the stock market in the sense that I do have investments. But do I understand the first thing about my investments? Not really. I mean, I know that which account that I choose um, to add money in when I have the money, which account I choose to add money to, because that's the one that generally performs better. It's not going to go stellar in a bull market, but it won't kill me in a bear market. But beyond that, I really don't know much. So you can play the stock market and not have financial literacy. You just let it go. However, you also do not need to have money in the stock market to be financially literate. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of students who do take those types of classes, whether it's at the major or just to understand how finances work, who either don't have the money or never thought about putting money in the stock market. And so you can go either way. You could have money in the stock market, because in my case, my parents did it when I was a kid. Or you can not have money in the stock market, but still understand how the stock market works. You don't need to have both. So anyway, so do I think that this is a good idea? Probably not, because again, you're putting your retirement at the whim of the stock market, which, I mean, people, a good counter argument is that you don't get that much money from Social Security. So, I mean, if it's as an addition, okay, fine. I still question the feasibility of it. Even if we were to do that and have charitable organizations or the government, which, if the government is at putting money for everybody in an account for babies, isn't that socialism? The very thing that people freak out about, even though it's a private stock market. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, I can see the benefits of it, but I don't know if tying retirement to a stock market, because you never know when some wackaloon does something to crater the stock market, and if that's where all your money is, that just won't be good at all. So there's a reason why this is called a social safety net, because that way, if things go really catastrophic, at least you have something. The privatization, you don't have that, especially if people are doing their damnedest to remove whatever guardrails were there to prevent another Great Depression. So, yeah, on the surface, sounds like a good idea if the guardrails are in place to prevent someone from cratering the stock market. But on the other hand, if someone does crater it, you're screwed. So, anyway, I believe that is all I have for this video. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.